This is the Bilal Vakani Hour on Canada Talk's SiriusXM 167, joined once again by the founder of the Disability Channel, Jay Stoyan, and his latest collaborator, Ron. Ron, how do I say your last name? Alexenburg?
Alexenburg,
Okay.
B-U-R-G.
Who has over 50 years of experience.
61.
51 in the music.
61.
61. What bio was I reading? Great to meet you, Ron. I can't even keep up with the amount of years of experience you have.
Well, you probably read a bio from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
11
years.
And that's when I made the move from New York to California. So I changed, but I'm still in it,
Well, and look, you've worked with, and you can add to this list because I'm 11 years behind, Boston, Meatloaf, Charlie Daniels, Michael Jackson. What leads you to our mutual friend, Jay Stoyan? Because that's such an impressive list. And I love Jay, but we shouldn't be mentioning him in the same discussion, but we are.
Oh, well, you're very kind. I have always been a fan of trying to do things for disabled veterans. And I'm very fortunate to be head of the Hollywood Media Professionals and president here, which deals with all the media of California, where they give you a definite maybe when you ask them a question. And I'm not good at that. So I try to be specific. And fundraising is tough all the time. But it's so ironic that I would meet with Jay and Richie and now you, that my niece in Chicago is the head of paralyzed veterans. And she was here 2 days ago explaining to me everything that they're doing around Veterans Day. And my career of 61 years has been fun and exciting. And I'm trying to finish a book, which is the hardest thing I've ever done, called From the Warehouse to the Penthouse. I started in the warehouse in Chicago, it's my hometown, and then moved to New York, spent 50 years on Long Island. And then, because fortunately God gave me 4 wonderful grandchildren, we came to California. And that's where I am now. The music business has been, as Louis Tiant said, very, very good to me. And I've been very fortunate to be surrounded by an amazing staff of people who bought what I was telling them about you got to give to get to give. And, when you see people like Richie working as hard as he worked at this initial fundraiser for a PFANA, it's amazing the energy you can give when the cause is so important. And yes, I was fortunate to have signed many artists that were kind of like people didn't want, from REO Speedwagon and Danny Fogelberg. Had started that at Epic. Being the head of promotion of Columbia Records was phenomenal. And I worked with Bob Dylan and Janis Joplin and the Byrds and Andy Williams, Barbra Streisand, Tony Bennett. But then Clive Davis said to me, listen, I need you to take over Epic. And I said, I don't want to go to Epic. I can't stand Epic. They were on the 13th floor and I was on the 12th floor of the CBS building. And they had Poco and Bobby Vinton and a couple of country artists, David Houston. And he played for me a record. And he said, tell me what you think of this record. And it was I Want to Take You Higher by some guy named Sly and the Family Stone. And he said, you think it's a hit? I said, yeah, it's a monster. He said, you want it? I'm going, yeah. He says, then take over Epic. And that's how that happened. I went to the 13th floor. Nobody was talking to me. They knew I was the competitor from downstairs. And in the first couple of weeks, a buddy of mine to this day, Irving Azoff, well-known manager, Eagles, came up and he handed me 2 cassettes. One was Dan Fogelberg, God rest his soul, and the other was REO Speedwagon. And they became like the first signings of Epic, and then we went nuts. We signed Boston and Meatloaf and Kansas and Charlie
Wow.
Daniels, which you'll hear me talk about, is probably one of the finest, God rest his soul, human beings that God ever put on this earth. He used to come into my office once a year and ask me to sign a dollar bill and roll it up, and he would take it to the wall in Israel and say prayers. When our son, God rest his soul, who passed away recently of diabetes, Charlie was diabetic. I'm a diabetic. But Charlie called my son in the hospital every day. So
Wow.
when he was sitting in my office and I had this song, Devil Went Down to Georgia, I'm going, yeah, I've been to Georgia, but John Boylan, who produced Boston, happened to be sitting in my office. I tried to hire him, which we did eventually. And John produced that record. Charlie Daniels is the first artist that I know of that got a 6-album firm commitment from me. And he said, 6 albums? I said, yeah, if you don't make it on the first one, we'll make it on the second one. You couldn't do that now for all the money in the world, But he was very philanthropic. That's the key word. Fundraising is if you're involved in fundraising for veterans, if you're involved in fundraising for disabled veterans or veterans of all kinds. I'll tell you what got me motivated. A buddy of mine's son came back from Nam with no legs, and Humvee got attacked as he was reporting on mules that were bringing drugs across, okay? And he almost lost his arm, lost both legs. And he was a big hockey fan, as am I. And we were in New York and Nassau Veterans Coliseum. Key word, veterans. And we pulled up to go to a hockey game. Chicago Blackhawks were playing the Islanders. And the guy said, that'll be $15. And go, wait a minute. It's not like I can't afford it. You're charging a veteran who has no legs $15 to park his car? How dare you? And the guy looked at me and he says, well, I'm calling the police. I said, you can call the National Armory. Get them all over here. And I made a scene out of no veteran to any sporting event. It's the escape, right? Whether it's football, baseball, basketball, whatever it is, that would take their mind into something other than. And years later, as a volunteer for a Special Olympics, May, 6:00 in the morning at Bethpage, they were doing the Special Olympics. And I volunteered for parking lot duty. Not a problem. I got there at 6:00 in the morning, and here came a van, and the van parked right at the end of the handicap spots that were marked off. The door opened up, 3 people got out of it in wheelchairs. I ran up to them, and I said, you missed the handicap parking. And they said, who's handicapped?
Wow.
Took care of me, buddy. I tell that story wherever I go. I felt like that.
Wow.
And he said, it's okay. We understand. So, it's very frustrating.
I have to jump in. I have to say I'm so thrilled the way this conversation has turned, Ron. Thank you so much for sharing those personal feelings and experiences in your life. I really appreciate that. That's wow. That's really heartfelt. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. I've been involved in the Betty Ford Clinic. I've been involved in Al-Anon. I've been involved in trying to help people as best as I can. And with the craze of fentanyl and the craze of what's been happening to young people right now, I don't think they understand what being disabled is all about. I don't think they understand the word. And we have to do all we can when we can honor those veterans. I was fortunate enough, Michael, God rest his soul, if he was still alive, Michael Jackson would have done the biggest concert you could ever imagine for disabled people. veterans.
We got so much to talk about, but let's talk about Richie Honore. I want to give a big shout out to Richie because Richie's the one that put this all together. He's an amazing man, amazing band, sweet. I mean, ballroom blitz. Could you tell us, Ron, about Unity, Peace, and Freedom Music Festival? I know you were the executive producer on that. I saw some footage, amazing footage. Can you give us just an overview of this festival and what it meant to California, yourself,
Sure.
and
I
musicians?
agreed to help Richie, where if I didn't, he would probably be parking himself on my lawn. And his dedication is just phenomenal. And when I heard that he was asking Willie Chambers of the Chambers Brothers, who
Brothers.
I hadn't seen in 40 years. Now, mind you, I was the head of promotion on that hit record, Time Has Come Today. And he shows up with his red snakeskin boots and his daughter. And then you had Iron Butterfly going. And I went up to them and I said, so, Iron Butterfly, you know the In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida is entitled In the Garden of Eden. That's the real truth of that song. You know? But Richie put it all together. And he's going to do more. We're going to do it in other cities. I want him to go to Chicago. Chicago is very philanthropic when it comes to veterans and people that are in need, that are disabled.
Do you know we have property in Chicago and Illinois related to a veteran called Project Die Hard? We have 20 acres in Illinois in a 10,000 square foot building. I'll find out. It's in Illinois. I'll find out exactly where it is. But yeah, I mean, it's open to me. Like I'm the media for the building. We could do a wonderful festival.
I have my dear childhood friend. His name is Jack Kelman. His father was head of the BBYO, the boys club, and he saved when the riots hit Chicago. He had the Better Boys Club and saved all those kids. And he's very much plugged into helping disabled people. He is a diabetic just like me, and that's in Illinois. His daddy built in Globe glass, all the glass that's in the Sears building and the Hancock building. That was his dad. So we have some pretty philanthropic people that would probably want to help you. And we'll get Ricky in Chicago because I need White Castle hamburgers, and I can't find them in California.
Jump in.
Yeah, I was going to do a reset because there's very little I have to say, but we're in conversation with Ron Alexenburg. He's been in the music industry for 61 years. I got it right now. He corrected me at the top. And Jay Stoyan, he's the founder of the Disability Channel. Honestly, Ron, I just sort of took that outdated paragraph I had and I was going to break into pieces, but you summed it up so well. And to be honest, we've only got about 5 minutes. So I'm just going to give the floor back to you both. And Jay, I'll start with you because I know Ron kind of kicked us off. What you guys want to say here about, your collaboration, because we could probably just talk about the music industry and, the evolution of how things have changed over time. But I want to make sure we do the work that we came together to do as well.
You want to talk? Let's talk unity, peace, and freedom. That's what it is. Unity brings people together. Peace is what we all need. And the freedom we still have in this country, the ability to say what we want to say and do what we want to do. And those that just say it and don't do it, I don't have time for them.
Very well said. Very well said. And I think it all goes through music, right? Music makes the world go round, I mean,
people say to me, what do you look for in signing an artist? I said, if I can't dance to it, cry to it, want to make love to it, I don't want to hear it.
While we have you here, let me pick your brain quickly. 2 questions. Give me your thought on Walter Yetnikoff.
Walter and I spent a lot of time together. When I left CBS is when he started to go downhill because I was looking out for him with many of the things that he was thinking of doing. And he took on a job that he was qualified for as a lawyer, but not qualified for as a music guy, as a street guy. We came out of the streets.
Yeah.
Okay, we came out of the south side of Chicago, where I'm from. First band I got involved with was a horn band that really wasn't getting a lot of attention called Chicago. Then the next one was Blood, Sweat, and Tears. But Walter wrote a book, and I didn't like it, but I liked Walter a lot. And he was always good to me. He was replacing, though, you got to remember, Clive Davis, and those shoes weren't easy to fill. But
There
Walter
you go.
and Clive and the lawyers tried to run the music business, but they couldn't run it without staff. And I was fortunate enough to have street people and staff that I'm friendly with to this day. But that's Walter Yupnikoff. Who's the next one?
Thank you. Well, why don't you jump in there and ask him a question there, Bilal? What do you ask him?
We only have 2.5 minutes, but the one thing I really wanted to ask you, and thank you, Jay, was just the evolution of the music industry for all the time. And I thought it was only 50 years when I thought of this question, but over 61 years, how much you've seen it change technologically, sound, mashups of genres. We could go on and on, but whatever jumps to your mind.
Well, here it is. You've seen these cell phones. I don't have one song on the phone, not one. I want to listen to music. I want to listen to the way it was recorded. I want to give singers, songwriters an opportunity to express themselves. Yes, it's changed. Sure, it's changed. But I can tell you of a song called Eve of Destruction that was Barry Maguire 50 years ago. If you listen to the song now, we're on the eve of destruction. If we're not, then where are we? So all music is good. Some is just better than others. Okay? And, we lost a great leader, Quincy Jones, started out as a trumpet player. And when they told him, because of his brain aneurysms, don't play the trumpet anymore, the clips will loosen up. He couldn't stop. He grabbed the trumpet and one clip came loose. It's in your blood and you can't fake it. If you're real, you can't fake it.
That's great, Ron. Thank you so much. Wow. Amazing. We can talk for hours and hours. I got so many more questions.
I only have 50 seconds in the show, so I'll just say we've got Jay Stoyan. He's the founder of the Disability Channel. Ron Alexenburg, he's been in the music industry for 61 years. And Ron, that might be the longest answer in the history. The first answer you gave me, I don't know, one of the answers you gave me was one of the longest answers, but it was such a treat to listen to, and I've never sat and prepped a whole interview and thought someone answered the first question so well that all I was looking at was the clock and your names and your titles, and it's
well, I have to behave with SiriusXM because Stevie Van Zandt is one of my dearest friends, okay? And he also has his show, but we should get him involved as well.
Sure.
Yeah, we can try.
Great.
Thank you for doing this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ron.
Whatever I can do.
Great to listen to you both.
I don't believe in goodbyes. To be continued.
Well said.
For sure.
Thank you both. That's it for the Bilal Vakani Hour. We'll talk to you next week.